Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. A lot of great things are going on in my life, and I'm pumped up. I'm in a great mood today. So let's rock and roll this bitch.
Man, I'm so excited to hear you're in a great mood. I can tell you're back in Oklahoma. I love to see you back home and
Yeah.
back home after a big weekend, man. WrestleDream in the rearview mirror. What a show it was at the Tacoma Dome. What a career it's been for Bryan Danielson. And a lot of people think that may have been his last match for quite a while, dropping the world title to Jon Moxley. You were on the call. What a crazy scene that was to close the show. Take us back to WrestleDream. What's going through your mind as you see the final minutes of
Well,
Bryan in-ring career?
sometimes Conrad, it's best for one to just lay out. At the end of the match, I was silent because I didn't know what I needed to say to continue to sell the moment and the fact that Bryan Danielson, by his own word, he said the day he loses the title is the day he's done. And he obviously lost the title. So I take him among any wrestler I've ever met at his word. I didn't know what to say. People said, why didn't you say something? Not my people, but just some fans. And there was nothing I could add that would help it. The pictures and the natural sounds, in my opinion, told the story very well. So that's why I laid out at the very end. I know Excalibur got very emotional. He cried. I didn't get that far into it, but I appreciate his passion. And so anyhow, that was a great match. I had two matches. I had Jericho and
Mark
Briscoe. Thank you. And I think I called him. I don't know if I ever called him Jay or not. Hopefully I didn't. I don't think I did because nobody called me out on it, and they'll always jump on your mistakes. So, but it was a really good match. They told a great story. It was physical. It was intense. If Moxley could bring that much passion out of Bryan, then good for him. It's not that Bryan is not passionate, but you kind of had to go to a different level. You had to go to a different place with this scenario. And like I said, I talked to Bryan before the show. Actually, he dressed in the same locker room that I was in, and I said, "What are you going to do if you lose?" Because I didn't want to know right then what the finish is going to be. I just didn't need to know. I can see it on the monitor, and I'll call it to the best of my ability. So he said, just like I said, when I lose the title, I'm done. Of full-time wrestling. That added that little caveat to it.
Yeah.
So what that tells me, obviously, and us, creepy-minded old wrestling fans, he's going to wrestle again somewhere. One would assume, based on what he said, but there's no guarantee of that. He may change his mind and want to get back in the fray and try to win the title back and then retire. Hell, who knows? I don't have any idea. But I know for right now he's done. And we always hold out hopes for our favorites. He's one of the nicest, easiest to work with guys I've ever worked with in 50 years, Conrad. I mean, he's honorable. He keeps his word. He works his ass off. He doesn't take any days off, shall we say. So I'm a bigger fan of Bryan Danielson today than even I was last Saturday in Tacoma. So it was an emotional night, to say the least. We had a hell of a good show. I thought this pay-per-view was excellent.
I enjoyed the pay-per-view too. It always feels like AEW over delivers, and boy, they did in a big way on this one. Obviously, the story of Bryan Danielson and what's next for him and his life, not just his career, but his life, remains to be seen. You and I are recording just moments before AEW Dynamite goes live. I'm sure we'll be talking about the fallout from that in the coming weeks. And of course, before you know it, Full Gear is going to be here. But as far as what everybody's talking about in AEW right now, man, that trios match, or I guess it's not a trios match, it was a three-way dance, if you will, for the international title.
Yeah.
Takeshita is now the new international champion. He was in there with Ricochet and Will Ospreay. Fans went bananas for this one. Did you get a chance to catch that match? What'd you think, Jim?
Yeah, we have monitors in our dressing room, and those guys really turned it out. They gave it everything they had. They took chances. I think all of them advanced their own individual games. Was an outstanding performance by all three guys. They took it to the next level. And I am sometimes simply amazed, and this is no disrespect to the other guys, but Ospreay is special. He's really, really special. And so I'm happy I got to watch it as a fan in our dressing room. So it was good. Hey, one thing that's on my mind that I want to clear up, Connie, is that I said something regarding Mercedes Moné that, she had not rung my bell, shall we say. That was no disrespect meant to her. It's all depending on how you're booked and who you're working with and the scenario, the storyline. And I think she's been short a storyline. And so therefore I haven't got to feel that grit and that aggression. She's very athletic and she's a beautiful woman, but golly, she could be used a lot more efficiently, I think. I'm not knocking the company, but she's a significant investment. And I'm anxious to see how it all works out when she gets into a scenario where at some point in time, she's going to have to lose and lose a title, lose one of those belts, I guess. But we're lucky to have her. And it looks like I'm eating my, what do you call it when you, I'm kind of I don't want to take it back, but I'm just saying.
No, I don't think so. I mean, let me say what I think you're trying to say.
Okay. Thank you.
The best is yet to come from Mercedes Moné in AEW. We haven't seen her at her peak yet.
Nope.
That's not to say that she's been held back or any of that. It's just, hey, man, Austin wasn't at his peak on every single week either. Creatively, we got to have everything flowing in the right direction. The timing's got to be right. We've yet to have that great home run story that we can all sink our teeth into with Mercedes Moné.
Agreed.
But she's got plenty of time left on that contract, so I feel fair in saying the best is yet to come from Mercedes in AEW.
I wholeheartedly agree. I like her. She's very personable. She takes a lot of pride in what she wears and her music and all those things that a lot of talents just take for granted and move on about their business. Not her. She pays attention. I'm just saying that how she has been booked and the opponents that she's worked with, she's done a series of one-offs. And that's hard to get over when you're doing a series of one-offs. You don't have time to sink your teeth into a personal issue. And if you don't have a personal issue, in my world where good old JR resides, personal issues are everything. And to have a great personal issue, one has to have several instances where you are competing or fighting or brawling or whatever with your adversary. But I'm a big fan of her work. It's just, I think, she could be even more effective. And I agree with you, Connie. The best is yet to come for her. So I just wanted to clear that up. It got out there. Of course, some people ran with it that JR doesn't like Mercedes Moné. No, I don't. That's not it at all. It's not even close. I'm a fan of her work, and she's made herself a star, a big star. And, we can utilize that star power if done correctly. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, shall we say, and I appreciate you helping me out.
Well, I don't really want to pick your brain about another talent that I'm really excited is going to get another bite at the apple. He's now in AEW. I'm talking about Shelton Benjamin. And we've seen him making his debut on camera for AEW. I think everyone listening to this universally likes Shelton Benjamin. Like, that dude is one of the most beloved figures in wrestling. You never hear anyone say anything negative about Shelton Benjamin. There's never been a problem off the field or with reliability. Like, there's no valid criticism of Shelton Benjamin that I've seen as a human being. But I felt like for a long time, man, he's such a superstar athlete. I don't know that he's really been given the quote unquote push that he deserves.
He hasn't.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in AEW, because we might see, I don't know, but we might see Shelton Benjamin as a badass heel. Like, sign me up for that in AEW, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just get him out there and letting him sink his teeth into some sort of issue that becomes a personal issue. And it looks as if, based on what I've seen, and I don't know any more than the fans watching on TV, it looks to me like, from where I have been sitting, that that's where it's headed. I've said this many times, Conrad, and that there was one recruiting class that we signed that included Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar and Dave Bautista and John Cena. Pretty good group. But the best athlete I signed in that group was Shelton Benjamin. When we do drills or stuff, and you're talking about some high-level athletes here, he blew everybody's ass away. And the only thing where we screwed up, in my opinion, in the long haul, looking back at it, is we didn't help Sheldon enough with his TV persona, his speaking skills. There should have been more time invested in that instead of just completely relying on him to just to wrestle. He needed the same treatment that a top guy would get, and he didn't get it in WWE at that time. So I'm with you. He's got a great upside. We said this about Mercedes Moné. The best is yet to come. I think, as far as Shelton Benjamin is concerned, the best is yet to come there as well. And I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised and maybe even shocked at how good he can be.
No doubt. Sign me up. We're on the Shelton bandwagon here. And we're also on the bandwagon for our friends at Home Chef. I mean, we've all had that dreaded dinner conversation. Honey, what are we doing for dinner tonight? I know, as a guy, I absolutely hate it. Inevitably, we wind up ordering takeout. It's just the easier option in our household, but it's never really satisfying, and we always wind up overspending. So if you'd rather enjoy a home-cooked meal without the stress of planning ahead, Home Chef makes it really easy, and it saves you money. Home Chef provides fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently delivered to your doorstep to really simplify your cooking experience. Whether you prefer classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients and easy instructions, speedy recipes ready in less than 30 minutes, oven-ready kits with pre-chopped ingredients, or quick microwave meals that assemble in minutes, Home Chef has you and the entire family covered for delicious meals without the hassle. Home Chef has over 30 options a week and serves a variety of dietary needs, and you don't have to worry about what to make ahead of time. So not only is it more convenient, it's also more economical too. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on their groceries. And now Home Chef even has a delicious kid-friendly family menu with 18 new options each week. Call it Picky Eater approved and take the stress out of dinner time. And right now, for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life. And of course, free shipping on your first box. Just go to homechef.com/JR. That's homechef.com/JR for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. You heard that right. Homechef.com/JR. Of course, you must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. What a deal, man. 18 free meals. Goodness gracious.
I like that's a lot of groceries.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of groceries. And I can tell you that the quality of the food, the pre-prepared food, is extraordinary. This company knows what the hell they're doing. There's been enough companies get in that business and fall out of that business. So they've learned a lot in the whole process. And it's a sure as hell a handy, convenient way to eat, to have dinner, to have lunch, whatever. And I love the option that you get a chance to have free dessert forever. I don't bother me none.
Go check it out right now. Homechef.com/JR. You'll be glad you did.
That's right.
Hey, let's talk about some other news and notes in the wrestling world. Our topic today is going to be TAZ, and we're going to spend some time talking about your colleague TAZ. But before we do, I wanted to at least hit some notes. We talked about WrestleDream and AEW's big pay-per-view event, and what the future may or may not hold for Bryan Danielson. But there's been some other news sort of outside the tent I wanted to touch on. And there's some sad news. Former Ring of Honor executive Joe Koff
Yeah.
passed away. This caught me by surprise. This guy maybe never really got the credit he deserved for keeping so many people employed in the wrestling business as long as he did. He saved Ring of Honor on multiple occasions and afforded a whole host of talent that we all see wrestle now on television every week an opportunity to continue to be professional wrestlers. I hope history is kind to Mr. Joe Koff because, boy, he sure was a friend of professional wrestling, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and a sweetheart of a guy. He was almost too nice because you always wondered. Of course, you get cynical and hardened and grizzled in the wrestling business, specifically trusting people. Joe was very trustworthy. He kept his word. If he told you he was going to call you, he always did. Always came through. He had answers. And he was committed to pro wrestling. He loved it as much as anybody. He reminded me of Howard Finkel in a certain degree that he just couldn't get enough of the product. And as you said, Conrad, there's a lot of guys right now that are earning a paycheck that owe it to Joe Koff. And he gave people a chance, and he had a good eye for talent, and he just was a sweetheart of a guy. I kept waiting for him to crack. Well, this is not going to last forever. This kindness and the genuality of Joe Koff to those that he interacted with. So I'm sad. Condolences to his family and all of his friends. I know a lot of them listen to the show, but he was a good guy. He was a guy that you could kind of mirror your career after. In other words, keep your word and love wrestling. And if you keep your word and you love wrestling, more often than not, you're going to finish where you want to finish at the end of the race.
Shout out to Joe Koff and his whole family and all that knew him. I only had the opportunity to meet Mr. Koff on one occasion. I think we did one separate call, like a group conference call, but by all accounts, everyone I knew who ever really knew him just thought the world of him. And man, you just hate to see that sort of tragic news.
I worked with him a lot, Connie. With Gary Jester connected me with Joe because they were buddies, and Joe kept the Ring of Honor brand alive, which created another television show for talent to work on, more exposure for the business. So I appreciate Gary Jester having the faith in me to turn me over to Joe. But I really enjoyed working with Joe. He was just a sweetheart of a guy, and smart. And like I said, he had a great eye for talent. At least in my opinion, he did. So he'll be missed. There's no doubt about it.
We should also talk about some other happy news if we can. Over the weekend, we saw a new champion crowned. I can't believe this is real. Zack Sabre Jr. is the new champ for New Japan. He's the IWGP World Champion. He's been one of the best technical wrestlers for a long, long time. And he's really been making a name for himself in Japan these last 7 years. And now he finds himself in the top spot for the entire, not just promotion, but he's the king of Japan right now. I mean, he won the title at the King of Pro Wrestling event. This is a big deal for a young guy like Zack Sabre Jr. And man, I know he's been at it for a long time, but this is a high watermark for anyone's career, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's very, very talented, very unique. Has his own style. He has a unique moveset that takes a life of its own. Really creative with his offense. He's a racehorse, and I'm somewhat sure that we'll see him again in AEW sooner than later because of all of our, we've got a lot of the New Japan guys that, Okada, et cetera, that are doing well. I got a text message today from Kenny Omega. It's his birthday, as a matter of fact. So any of you guys on social media want to reach out, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. He'll be back with us sooner than later, as we expect. But I think that whole New Japan connection will extend to their champion at some point in time. We got a lot of guys on AEW that have booked with Kenny, or excuse me, with
Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, Zack Sabre Jr., not Zack Sabre Sr. No, I'm kidding. But I expect to see him in an AEW ring, and I hope I get to call some of his matches. He's very entertaining, and he's very creative. He's unique. He's different, and he doesn't have that overwhelming body. He's lean. He's lanky. But boy, he's a good athlete, and I'm proud to congratulate him for his success. And like I said, we look forward to seeing him again in an AEW ring somewhere down the road.
No doubt. He had his battles with Bryan Danielson too. Can't wait to see what's next for Zack Sabre Jr. We know what's next for Tanahashi. I don't know if you saw this, Jim, but he announced his retirement. It's official. Wrestle Kingdom 2026. So not the Wrestle Kingdom that's a few months away, but about 15 months from now, Tanahashi is going to hang it up. And I think that's interesting because he was the top guy in New Japan at the same time that Cena was the top guy in WWE. And they're both spending 2025 doing farewell tours. I like that. I hope we see more of that in wrestling.
I like that too, Conrad. Sorry to interrupt. I like that too. I agree with you. When I did Wrestle Kingdom back in the day, a few years back, I worked with Matt Striker on that show from the Tokyo Dome. He was one of the first guys that walked up to me to introduce me and welcome me to Tokyo. And wish me good luck, and if I need anything. He spoke good enough English that we could communicate. And so, but he's the ace. He was the ace there for a long time, and he pulled that company. He got hot. He connected with his audience. He got hot, and they rode that horse as far as they could go. And I've always liked his work. He incorporated a little bit of the American style with his Japanese stuff. So he's had a wonderful career. So I congratulate him on that. And I like the way they plan. You know, it's not going to be like they just found out yesterday. He's not going to be here next week. He's retiring. They can work around that now. They can do a farewell tour or whatever. He's colorful. He's charismatic, and a real decent human being. So good for him. And I hope that he passes through AEW again. I got to believe that he will at some point. At least that's my hope. Maybe wishful thinking. I don't know. But he's a superstar, and he made himself a legend in Japan and in other parts of the world as well.
I don't know if you saw this news, Jim, but recently over at adfreeshows.com, we just announced a brand new match or a new initiative called Ladies Night at the Matches. That's right. It's a brand new piece of content you're going to enjoy at adfreeshows.com, hosted by Ad Free Show's own top gals, Amy Vaughn and Megan Nelson. The ladies, how about that? They're bringing you a women's perspective on the business and celebrating women's contributions to the history and the evolution of the business. And who better to kick off our first all-female show than a very special guest, the first lady of wrestling herself, Missy Hyatt.
Wow.
Let's take a listen.
What was it like working with Sunshine, someone that you had seen? You know, you were kind of talking about how
I was so in awe. I was so in awe of her because she was so awesome. She was one of the nicest people in the world. She got on to me one time because I remember we were doing a cat fight and I was laughing because I was having such a good time and it was fun and I wasn't getting hurt. And she came back and we got the back and I remember her coming over our dressing room, which is, you never did that. You know, the baby faces stay in their dressing room, the heels stay in their dressing room. But she was like, don't you ever laugh again. She got on to me. I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You know, but she was a wonderful person. She was really wonderful. She really taught me a lot and helped me. And really, if it wasn't for Sunshine, there would never be a Missy Hyatt. So.
Check it out. Ladies Night at the Matches. There's more than 100,000 hours of other bonus content including brand new series you can't get anywhere else. And how about the new one we just announced last week, Memphis Memories with Downtown Bruno, alongside Lex Luger's Lex Express, The Godfather's Poddin' Ain't Easy, Tully Blanchard's Tully Vision, David Crockett's The Book, Monday Mailbag with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, Learning Lucha with Sam Adonis. There's something for everybody, and it's all happening right now at adfreeshows.com. That's long overdue, Jim. A ladies show on
Yeah.
AS.
Well, you know how I feel about the ladies. No, I'm not making a joke here. But when, it was a matter of when I went to work for Vince in 93, the ladies consisted essentially of Moolah and Wendy Richter. And people had seen them over and over and over. And we had such a strong male demographic. And most males, I say this tongue in cheek, but most males like women. And we weren't giving them that. We weren't addressing that demo. So that's why we hired who we hired. I remember Vince giving me the directive, I don't care where you got to go, what you got to do. I want athletic 10s. Well, we were always successful with the 10s, but we damn sure prioritized wrestling. And that's why I'll always be eternally thankful for having the opportunity to work with Jackie Moore, Ivory, Lisa Moretti. They were invaluable to the development of the women's division. And, then we struck really well with Lita and Trish Stratus. They got over. They closed the Raw. I remember some of the guys come to me and said, what the hell are we doing? Well, we're going to draw a rating. That's what we're doing. And if you think you should be closing the show, then maybe you should work harder. Give the creative people a reason to want to put you there. So good for you, Conrad. That's good. It's good vision, and there's a lot of really good potential guests out there that I think you'll be able to capitalize on. But I applaud you for it. It's a great thing, and there's a lot of wrestling fans that have become wrestling fans in the last few years because of the ladies.
Well, speaking of the ladies, I know you've always been a big advocate and a proponent of women's wrestling, and maybe there's no better example of that. I don't know that this is something everybody knows about, but by God, good old JR is an executive producer for Queen of the Ring, and that's right, you can come join him at the world premiere. It's happening this weekend, and we're going to have a link in the description for today's show where you can actually go grab tickets this Saturday, October 19th at 5:30 at the Lido Theater. So if you find yourself on the West Coast, I want you to make a trip to the Newport Beach Film Festival. It's happening on October 19th. That's this Saturday,
right,
at 5:30 Pacific. Queen of the Ring. And what's really cool about this for me, Jim, and I had no idea the all-star cast you guys had assembled, Walton Goggins, who is a favorite of mine, and anybody who's seen Justified or Righteous Gemstones or any of the Tarantino movies from recent years, Walton Goggins. He's playing Jack Pfeffer. I can't believe that's real. Adam Demos is playing Gorgeous George. Josh Lucas, who you're familiar with, is playing Billy Wolf. We've got Francesca Eastwood playing Mae Young. And how about this for a little wrestling? I love this. Britt Baker's in this. Tony Storm is in this. Trinity Fatu is in this. And there's even characters representing Vince McMahon Sr. And remember the sensei, Martin Cove from Karate Kid? He's in this movie too. And it has its world premiere this weekend at the Newport Beach Film Festival. Tickets are on sale now. They're very affordable. And you get to see the world premiere with good old JR. Tickets will be available in the link in the description. This is big time stuff, man. Congratulations. This is a big deal.
Oh, thank you very much. I have purposely declined the offers to see the whole thing through. I've got a great feel for it. Ash Avildsen and I are real good friends, and he's the head honcho of this deal. He's actually also playing Vince McMahon Sr.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's an amazing story survival and overcoming the odds. You know, it was a situation where there's one period of Mildred's career that women were not allowed by law to compete. It was very poor. Look at those arms, Millie, biceps. I wish I had biceps like that, Conrad. And she was a toughie. I can tell you that. I learned a lot about Mildred through Mae Young, when Mae Young would come into WWE and do TV or pay-per-view type thing. And Mae, of course, a fellow Oklahoman. She's from Sand Springs. She thought that was the coolest thing that I knew the nickname of her team, the Sand Springs Sandites. And Mae played on the boys' baseball team and wrestled when it wasn't even legal or it wasn't even a sport in high school. So it's an amazing story. And I thought that it would fit today's marketplace. Women are getting a more of a break and they're getting an opportunity. I think that's wonderful. Hey, look, an old fat boy from Oklahoma that ended up having facial paralysis made it. And so that old guy wants to make sure that others get a fair shot. And we're going to make sure that happens to whatever our abilities are to do that. But it's really a cool thing, man. It's a big part of wrestling history because without Mildred and Mildred's accomplishments and her never say die attitude, a lot of the beautiful ladies that are wrestling today, we talked earlier about Mercedes Moné, they'd be sitting on the sideline. So it's pretty cool, and I'm proud of the opportunity, and I can't wait to see it because I haven't seen the whole thing all the way through. I'm pumped. I'm really pumped about that. It's kind of weird that you see your work on the screen and have something to enjoy. You know, something my kids can go to. Hopefully, my grandkids can check out. But it's a good film. It's going to be a good film because it has a great story, and the story is based in truth. I mean, I remember when even in the 70s, where we would have a big show in Tulsa at the Assembly Center, and the women that were on the card had to dress in a closet, like a maintenance closet. They only had 2 dressing rooms, and you know, some of the women wouldn't give a shit. Like Mae could care less where she dressed, but the other ladies had to suffer through the closets, the janitor closets, and things like that. And they drove the town just like the guys. They got in that car and off they went. So I've always had great respect for them, and I always thought that genre deserved better. And thank God, over the years, we've seen that come true. We got women women are making. There's several women in the business right now making 7 figures. And the last I looked, that's $1 million.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because Mildred Burke is actually the first $1 million female athlete in world history. And that's what this movie is all about. It's going down this weekend at the Newport Beach Film Festival. And it's the world premiere, the first time anybody's seen this movie, including Jim Ross, who's the executive producer. And you can go grab tickets to this doggone thing for just $20. What are you waiting for? Be there with JR. He'll be there at the Lido Theater this Saturday, October 19th at 5:30. And we've got the link on how you can join him for tickets in the description for today's show.
They may even have cocktails.
Well, come on.
Come on now.
A little wrestling, a little JR, a little fellowshipping, a little cocktail action.
You never know. It should be fun.
I can't wait to see that movie for real. I know they're going to have a wider release in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Me up, man. Walton Goggins is one of my favorite actors. I mean, before we clicked record and we went through the whole cast, I mean, I knew this was being made, but I didn't know it was debuting this weekend. Walton Goggins is the dude, man. It's a real feather in the cap for you guys. Congrats.
Thank you very much. We got the cast is good, and you look at everybody there and their background and their history, their film history. It's pretty impressive. So there's no shortage of talent, And now it's just a matter of them going out and executing, and Ash getting on film what he wants. And I'm sure that he did. Hey, it's the TAZ in the barn now, man. Let's roll it. Let's go.
Can't wait to see it. And if you're looking forward to seeing JR, but you can't make it to Newport Beach this weekend, what about November 16th? You hit up the Wrestling Classic in Springfield, Massachusetts. Tickets are on sale now at zombie-hideout.com. That's November 16th in Springfield, Massachusetts. Go see good old JR live and in person in Springfield, Massachusetts on November 16th. Tickets are zombie-hideout.com. And of course, we're going to finish out November strong like we always do at WrestleCade in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. If you've never been to a WrestleCade, you're missing out. Make this the year you go see JR, and a whole host of other Hall of Famers.
Tons.
See JR right now are available at WrestleCade.com. That's WrestleCade.com. And if you'd like to get JR to come to your event, he's available. You can book him. It's Jim Ross at 1168-media.com. That's Jim Ross at 1168-media.com. Jim, I'd love to see you getting back out there, man, making some appearances. How about that?
I think, thank you. I think that the fact that I'm feeling better, I feel better about traveling. I'm not so hesitant about traveling right now because I'm feeling good. My hip still bothers me. I wonder how long a goddamn hip replacement takes to heal, but it ain't happened for me yet, but it's getting better. So I'm doing all I can to keep my presence out there and enjoy going out and meeting with the fans. It's great. It's invigorating, and it makes me feel young. And it never fails that somebody's saying, "You're the voice of my childhood," that type thing. And it may sound elementary and not a big deal to some of you guys, but it's a big deal to me when somebody says, "You're the voice of my childhood," and now I'm raising my son. One of the most rewarding things I've had happen, Conrad, in recent weeks on these appearances is I met 3 generations of Jim Ross people. Grandpa, his son, and then his son, the grandson. It was cool as hell. I used to be leery of that and hesitant to engage because my ego told me it made me look and feel old. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm blessed that it's happening. And so if you have an event that you want me to attend, well, get a hold of us and let's see if we can work something out.
Let's make it happen. Get JR in your neck of the woods. I'm looking forward to seeing you making some more of those appearances. And I'm looking forward to today's topic. We're going to be talking about friend of the show and your longtime colleague, the one and only TAZ. And of course, your story with TAZ really starts before he was an in-ring commentator. Let's go back to August of '99.
Mm-hmm.
And the Torch would say that Paul Heyman fully expects WCW to raid his ECW roster before the TNN show begins, but he says he's not worried because he's been trying to lock down a lot of his talent to more long-term deals. And it's written at the time that TAZ had always been under a handshake agreement. When you think back to 1999, this is August of '99, and obviously the industry is abuzz about ECW finally having television clearance. It feels like TAZ had been on your radar for maybe a little while.
Yeah.
Were you concerned that WCW may snatch up some of that ECW talent before you had a chance?
Well, it was always on my mind. TAZ, grew up in New York, Red Hook, Brooklyn area, if I'm not mistaken. And he was living on Long Island, so he's a local. And he was a WWE fan all those years because he grew up there. And it's just in his blood. And a lot of his heroes were on the WWE roster at that point in time. So he as a matter of fact, he contacted me and he left me a message that my secretary took. And it was one of those little pink message things. And it said the caller was Peter Cernicia. I may have mispronounced that, probably did. Don't mean to. So I was really interested in hiring Taz. He didn't get a good fair shake, and that may be too strong words. I don't know, but if he hadn't got injured, he was on his way to doing really well. Some talents were afraid of him because he would suplex your ass out of your boots if you wanted to. And I have a lot of respect for Taz, and I've enjoyed working with him on a variety of ways. I remember having a talk with him. He had tears in his eyes, and I think probably I did too, when we found out the diagnosis of his injury. It was a torn pec or torn bicep. Some muscles were torn that required surgery, and I was going to put him on the shelf. I think he was actually worried that his is going to cut short his tenure. But we had a deal. I'm not going to get rid of you because you're hurt. I'm going to help you get well, and then we'll start over. So, but some of the people in the office felt he was too short and all that, even though he could whip their ass if he wanted to without getting sweaty. So, but I've always, he's hard. He's some of those guys that came out of ECW had trust issues. And Taz, not figuring out of school, was one of those guys that had trust issues. And I had to address that and work on that and just gain his confidence. So I'm not going to screw you over. So he did well. He did well. He made good money at WWE, and it kind of launched him to other things. So I've got a good relationship with Taz. I enjoy working with him. He's become a hell of a broadcaster, and I love to watch the work of his son, who's getting better every time you see him. So I'm a Taz fan. I'm glad that he's doing well. I'm sure he saved his cash. That comes into this conversation. He's a cool guy, a good guy, and he loves the business. And for me, that's all I need to hear. He's a good guy that loves the business, and he's become a good announcer. And so I think, what do you do? Do you have knee replacement?
Yes, he did. He had a full knee replacement. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's not that unusual, but it is what it is, and it's going to take some time to heal. And when he gets healed, his job will be sitting right there waiting on him. His chair will not be filled, as I understand it, until he gets back. So good for him. And I know he was in a lot of pain over the years. They took a lot of bumps and had a lot of bruises and all that good stuff. And he got it fixed. And it's not the fact he got it fixed so he could wrestle again. I don't expect to ever see Taz in another match. He's not interested in it, apparently, seemingly. At least that's what he and I have discussed. He just wanted to get out of the pain where he could have a normal life and walk like a normal human. So, good guy, hard-headed, stubborn, and he doesn't trust. He doesn't trust a lot of people. So, I hope he trusts me. I'm not in a position to affect his job because I'm not an administrator at AEW. But he's a stubborn son of a bitch, and he's smart, really smart to the wrestling business. So I have a good relationship with him, and I'm proud that I do. He's a friend, and to me, in the wrestling business, if you got a friend, embrace that, because sometimes those friendships don't last long.
Well, we got to talk about 1999 because this is an interesting time. There was a time when ECW was bouncing paychecks, and we're out of that now. And we're trying to, say, hey, guys, we finally made it. We're on national TV, but people are being paid a little slower. Houses seem to be down. There is some hurt feelings and some stress in the locker room. And allegedly here in August of 99, around this time, is when some of the top guys like Taz and Justin Credible and Rob Van Dam start getting proof that, hey, you do actually have a health insurance plan here with ECW. Paul Heyman has come through in that regard. Maybe it was the sticking point for some of the talent that he was trying to put on paper. But by August 9th, Dave Meltzer would write, Taz was negotiating with the WWF over the past week, but by the end of the week was said to be leaning towards staying put. Wade Keller would even report that Taz signed a 3-year deal. He had been on a handshake agreement since day one with the company, but now that he's on paper, he's believed to be, according to Wade, the final piece in Heyman's plan to sign all the upper roster performers to exclusive deals. Now, we know this winds up not being the case, and he winds up not actually signing. We know that because he's going to become a part of the WWF. But at least at first, people thought he was sticking around, and there was even an idea that, hey, if he's leaving, then on the second episode of ECW on TNN, in week 1, we'll have Rob Van Dam drop the TV title, and in week 2, we'll have him win the world title. But since Taz seems to be sticking around, we're going to scrap those plans. And here's what's written in the Observer. The actual story on negotiations with the WWF were that Brad Small, who was said to be representing Taz, had called both the WWF and WCW. He asked for $450,000 per year and a maximum number of dates. WCW never even responded. WWF responded with a no thanks, but eventually did counter with a lowball $200,000 downside guarantee, and that's where it ended. Taz himself supposedly never spoke with Jim Ross or Vince McMahon. Daily Variety played the story up as if TNN had anteed up a 7-figure 3-year contract to get Taz to turn down these lucrative offers. Top money right now in ECW is $3,000 per week. Taz was earning in that range and may have gotten a raise, but the idea that there was this aggressive bidding war for his services is pure fantasy. That's what's written in the Observer. And man, they got it all wrong. I just find that so fascinating that everyone thinks he's signed, he's sticking, and no, he actually left. Do you remember dealing with Brad Small at all? What can you tell us about
Yeah,
Brad?
a little bit. I like Brad. Brad's a good guy. He's a straight shooter, smart, young. Still, he was been a wrestling fan all his life, but he's a good attorney. And I worked with him some on this project. At the end of the day, it was primarily Taz and me, and which I liked. I think he liked it too, because, you know, there's an old saying that they say here in Oklahoma, you can talk to the horse's head or you can talk to the horse's ass. And on that particular occasion of that exchange, I was the horse's head. Not to say that I haven't been the horse's ass on many occasions. I have. But certainly, you know, we had no issues coming to an agreement. He was going to make so much more money. But the other issue is that he knew that he was not going to have any issues getting paid. The checks were not going to come late, type thing. So, and when you got a family and you got a young son, hell, that's a pretty good find for the wrestling business. So they offered him some security, nice paydays, and the opportunity to get over and make even more money. And he was well on his way of doing that until he got injured. So that set us back. But I think some guys actually in the company were relieved that he got hurt, because he was going to take some spots. He was going to move up the ladder without any question. He was over. And I remember him in the Garden early on. Big pop. It was proven right then and there that he was over to the audience. And I think, do you remember when he debuted at the Garden?
I do. I can't wait for us to talk about that. But before we do, we now to remind everybody that Magic Spoon has big news. They've turned their super popular cereal into high protein treats that are light, crispy, and taste just like those classic crunchy cereal bars. You know, the ones that mom used to make. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are so delicious. They've already become my go-to snack. Even my wife likes it for a pre-workout. You see, every serving of Magic Spoon cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. So you really can feel good about what you're eating. The most popular flavors are fruity and cocoa, but there's many more. But the brand new treats, man, they're crispy, they're airy, they're crunchy, and it's an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. And now for the first time ever, Magic Spoon treats are available in grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. I've also enjoyed the blueberry muffin, but my go-to is the double chocolate. I mean, that thing ought to be illegal. It's so good. And here's the reality about Magic Spoon. As a kid, we all loved eating cereal. But then as adults, we realize we don't need all that sugar. We need more protein in the morning. Magic Spoon is the way. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/JR or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/JR for $5 off. Magic Spoon. Hold on to the dream.
You know, Conrad, I'm diabetic. I'm diabetes 2. So I try when I put my head out of my tuckus to have, watch my sugar intake. And this was Magic Spoon was a godsend in my life. My pantry is packed with cereal and the bars. And, late at night when you need a snack, instead of going for ice cream or something that's fattening and laden with sugar, I'll grab a Magic Spoon, either a bowl of cereal or one of the bars, and it works out great. I wholeheartedly recommend this product. If you're diabetic or if you're trying to lose a little weight, the no sugar aspect of this product is a big help. It's an asset. So I can't tell you. I mean, I use it. I have something from Magic Spoon almost every day. So they got me. They sold me on their product, and they'll sell you on the product too. All you got to do is give it a try, and it's affordable. And now you get $5 off with the promo code JR, and we encourage you to try it. If you're looking again the weight control, dietary aspects, it's there. So give it a shot and tell me you don't like it.
I'm gonna be honest. It tastes great. Like I challenge anybody listening to this. Go try that double chocolate bar from Magic Spoon. No chance you don't love it, dude. It's a home run. I can't believe it's that good. It's unbelievable. Magicspoon.com/JR. Use the promo code JR. Hey, so let's talk about the TAZ back and forth. We talked about the reports he had signed, not just in the Observer, not just in the Torch, but Variety. I just want to make this clear. I don't want anybody heaping any negative media in the direction of Wade Keller or Dave Meltzer for getting that wrong. Variety reported it too. I know a Paul Heyman story when I hear one. I mean, if my man was about to debut on TNN, he doesn't want it out there, the conversation being that one of the top stars has now flown the coop and he's leaving. In fact, the whole narrative that WCW never made an offer to TAZ or they didn't even respond to Brad Small, that too is inaccurate. It turns out what really happened is WCW made an offer. It wasn't necessarily overwhelming, and TAZ had to make a decision. Do I go to WCW and see how some of the other ECW talent has been treated there? And they're frustrated, like his old pal Raven, who at this point had been or was about to be so frustrated that he takes Eric Bischoff up on his offer to leave WCW. So that's certainly in the back of his mind. And as we know, that contract wound up not being signed. And they're continuing to work on one or two things, but they're close. They're close. We go into damage control. I mean, really and truly, Paul Heyman's in an unenviable position. TAZ is not only the champ, but my top star. And we've been on a handshake deal from day one, but now we're on TV. They needed TAZ more than ever right here, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. He's top dog.
Yeah.
He was the most over guy in the company, in my opinion. And that's why I never let up on recruiting him and trying to make him feel comfortable with this arrangement. I knew it was going to be a challenge because he was surrounded by uncertainty. And pretty much his whole career, he was either an indie wrestler, just going by what he was going to make that night, which is scary for a married man with a family. It really is. So I just knew that we could use TAZ, and I thought he could become a star, and I still believe that. If he hadn't got hurt, they're telling how far off the ladder he would have gone. He was potentially dangerous for the established main eventers, because there's a new guy. He's hungry. He's over with the crowd. He's unique. Nobody else. We don't have anybody else like him. So I just thought it was the right thing to do, and I still believe that to this very day. It was just like I said. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He tore his muscles. I can't remember what it was. Was it his tricep? Conrad, do you remember? Or tricep, bicep, pec? I don't know. Something in his upper body tore up. So, but I remember telling him too, you got nothing to worry about because we're not going to get rid of you at all because of this injury. So take that out of your process and just get back in the gym and train and rehab your ass off and get better than ever. So that was the message to him. And I think he was very relieved the fact that he was making a pretty good buck and he was going to keep making those checks, get those checks every week. And I think that's how you do business. You can't fire somebody or get rid of somebody because they got hurt, at least in my world.
Of course, we know when ECW on TNN debuts, it's supposed to be a huge celebration. I don't know if that's exactly the way it was received by the talent at the time. It does feel like maybe it was starting to be a little too late or too little too late, as the old expression goes. But we start to see the wheels come off in this relationship after there seemingly being an understanding that, hey, we're going to get this deal done. Allegedly, there's a couple of sticking points, something along the lines of the number of dates or personal appearances that were included for the amount. And both sides were sort of digging their heels in. And they had a handshake agreement and understanding, allegedly, that, hey, we'll just do this deal through the end of the year and then we'll see how it goes. But I guess as Heyman continued to push, this is certainly the narrative through the newsletters and the Torch and the Observer, that Taz was just not coming to the table. So as the story goes, Paul Heyman doesn't attend a live event that turns into a television taping, of course, in Jacksonville, Florida. And he tells Tommy Dreamer, hey, tonight, make sure to tell Taz that even though he's the champ, he's going to lose to Sabu in a non-title match in the main event. And as the story goes, Taz picked up the phone to call Paul Heyman like, hey, why am I losing? If I'm the champ, why am I losing a non-title match? Like, kind of feels like a throwaway. Why are we doing that? And allegedly, this was a move that Paul Heyman was doing just to show Taz who the boss was and that he needed to go sign. Well, Taz did go sign. He hung up, did the job for Sabu, and then signed his WWF deal.
That's right.
Is this the way you remember hearing some of the tone of the conversations? I'm trying to jog your memory that they had a handshake agreement. There was a couple details, but now he's wanting me to lose non-title matches. Like, what are we doing?
That helped our recruiting.
Yeah.
It helped our recruiting because, as I said early on when we were talking about Taz, his background and the environment that he was raised in wrestling was one that kind of fostered and promoted insecurity. And he was a very insecure guy because he'd been jacked around so much and lied to and late pay and all this stuff. I can't imagine having a wife and a small son and not knowing when or if my check is going to come on time and for the full amount. It's scary. And he came to that realization as well. And so at the end, when we were closing the deal, it wasn't hard. It was very simple. We wanted him. That's the greatest thing. If you get a talent that you want and that wants you, you shouldn't have an issue over Mickey Mouse bullshit. And we didn't. It may have been reported as such. He was just reluctant to leave home. Taz was reluctant to leave home, and home was ECW to Conrad. So we had to get past that. And it's like a kid going off to college. You know, you can't sleep in your mom and dad's house forever. So but boy, we're lucky to have him. And I was lucky to be a physician to help him succeed. He did it, but I at least tried to foster an atmosphere that he could cultivate and take of his own and run with it. So I remember his when they were talking about announcers, and he got the opportunity to be an announcer, I think, on SmackDown with Michael Cole, and they did a real good job. They teamed well. It was almost competitive between Cole and Taz and the King and JR. It got to be a little competitive because the ratings are factored in and the houses and the, whatever. So I just think he was a good find. He was versatile. He could do a lot of different things. And if he didn't wrestle for us anymore, so what? He has become a hell of a good broadcaster.
This whole signing is fascinating to me. How Taz becomes a formal part of the WWE. Eventually they honor that handshake agreement. They're going to work together through the end of the year. It said that even though there was a lot of friction behind the scenes between Taz and Paul Heyman, they want to keep things amicable publicly. They don't want this to look like a Bret Hart and Vince McMahon thing. And it's been written about here in early September. It's sort of a foregone conclusion. He's probably going to drop the title to Masato Tanaka on September 19th. And we know that winds up becoming a coming out party for Mike Awesome instead.
Right.
But as the story goes, and this is directly from the Observer, WWF sources indicate Taz and his agent, when they were dealing with the company, complained of being tired of Heyman's dishonesty in dealings and expressed the intentions that he wanted out. Some ECW sources attempted to place the blame for the agreement falling apart on Brad Small, although others recognize Taz ultimately is going to make his own decisions.
Right.
Taz didn't want to comment on anything until after the pay-per-view show. Jim Ross, who hinted of the story late in the week on the WWF website, talked of a major star apparently being headed to the WWF that even surprised him, as Ross is in charge of personnel moves and signing talent, but he was bypassed directly for Vince Russo and Vince McMahon on the initial stages of the conversation. As it's written here, and they go back and forth about all the money and how this works, Paul Heyman, he's under a lot of pressure. TNN is insistent that the top talent be signed, so the show doesn't come off as a expose of talent that could then be cherry picked off to appear on rival networks like TNT and TBS and USA. So from a television standpoint, TNN wants these guys locked in as well. And as the story goes, there's a private meeting that happened, or a conversation rather, between Taz and Vince Russo on August 31st. That's just 4 days after ECW on TNN debuted. And the next day, on September 1st, there's a secret meeting. I think this happened at a hotel banquet room, and Vince Russo was there, and Vince McMahon was there, and Taz was there. And I think you were there too, right, Jim?
Yeah, we brought out all the big guns because what everybody wants to see, and no disrespect to Russo, and I can understand why he was involved. But eventually, my deal with Vince was I got to get involved. I got to be involved in all the talent acquisitions and all those decisions. It's got to fit our budget, what money we have left, and what money we could afford to put there for that talent. So we treated Taz like a king. He had every decision maker that he would ever need in the pro wrestling business was sitting in that room talking to him. He got everything. I think he got everything. I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to be assured that all this stuff was on the upper, and the fact that, he's got to have some security, and Vince being there provided that without question.
Of course, well, you know how this goes. Telephone, telegram, telewrestler. By September 2nd, just 1 day after this meeting with Vince McMahon, Paul Heyman found out. He blew up. That's when he marches the orders down to Jacksonville, have Sabu beat Taz. Taz was frustrated by that. Allegedly, they meet in Daytona Beach. They have a conversation and agree that technically we need to stick together through the end of the year. Paul Heyman is he's upset. He's in his feelings with Vince McMahon, and Vince is insistent. Hey, he came to us. We didn't go to him. We didn't go around your back and not communicate this. So the decision is made. We're not going to start him in the WWE until the start of the year. He can stay with ECW through the end of the year. How was this relationship with Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon? And Taz sort of found himself in the middle of this, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Vince made himself clear what he was trying. Vince was trying to make, knowing that Taz had issues with trust. Vince did all he could from his side to make sure that Taz was aware and assured that things are going to be fine. If you get over, you get over. We're going to try to get you over. Why would we hire you and pay you? I think we paid him over $300K a year, and starting out, I believe. And it's been too long, and it's a lot of math in my feeble ass head. So he was just Vince's involvement in it really helped close the deal, because then Paul knew he was talking to the horse's head, not a series of horses' asses that it would include me. So that helped us close the deal, and then we tried to make it as easy for Paul as we could. I mean, you can extend it to stay there for X number of months or weeks or whatever it was, first of the year, whatever, and it will work. So that was Vince's deal. He didn't have to do that, but he did it to help out Heyman.
It's interesting to see how this all unfolds, and I understand it from all sides. Like, if you're Paul Heyman, man, we've known for a long time, in order to make this company viable, we need national television. Now we have it. We don't want one of our top stars leaving. Now, we didn't have him on paper because, well, we've struggled financially for years. He's been one of our OG guys who helped run the dojo, and I mean, he helped design a lot of the t-shirts. I mean, he had more of a role in ECW than just what we saw in front of the camera. There was a lot of stuff that the real life Taz did behind the scenes, and Paul Heyman featured him, and he's his champ, and he's not under contract, and he's in the TV commercial, and he's got an action figure, and he's going to be in the video game. So there's lots of commitments that have been made to Taz, and now for him to leave, it reflects poorly on ECW, to TNN, and to all these other business partners, like the folks making the action figure and so forth. But at the same time, just so everybody knows the timeline here, Taz has a wife and a young baby at home. We know what that baby's up to now. But, when you got to think about that sort of stuff, hey, man, sorry about the action figure, but I got a wife and kid, and if I can go get a guarantee over here and push my career further, I got to do it, right?
Well, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you got to think about? What do you have to think about? And the other aspect that always was a little bit shocking to me, Conrad, was the fact that Taz was a free agent all along. The handshakes that they had. You would like to think that handshakes mean more, and they do mean a lot, no doubt about that. But at some point in time, you got to get guys on paper. And to be honest with you, before I would have made all these commitments to Paul, action figures, et cetera, his ass have been signed, was signed a contract. And I don't think he would have had a hard time doing that with Brad Small helping out. And, but for whatever reason, Paul just didn't make that commitment because he knew it was going to cost him some money. It wasn't going to be a cheap get. So there's where that lied. Paul should have had him under contract all along. And I'm sure that the ECW loyalists or the alumni well, here's why we didn't do this. Okay, if you can't get the contract signed, then you're putting all your eggs in a very, very viable, albeit sensitive basket. So that was a big mistake by Paul. And I like Paul. I like Paul this very day. He was one of my favorite broadcast partners. We didn't have the tenure that Lawler and I had, but nonetheless, I enjoyed the hell out of working with him. He brought out a side in me that Lawler didn't. And there's a lot of aggression. And we would go at it for real at the table. Now, when the show is over, the shit's over. But there were a lot of nights where we were broadcasting. He would piss me off so much just out of spite, and he knew where to push my buttons. And at the end of the day, that was a good thing. It added another dimension to my broadcast work, because I didn't have those anger moments or fits of rage with Lawler. I mean, we disagree and so forth, but Heyman brought out the venom, and I thought it was a good addition to my presentation. So I just never did understand, no contract for your top guy, really. So, and that's what we found out, and it just was amazing to me that Paul had let that occur. He's just too smart. So there had to be other reasons, and I would assume that they were financial in nature. I'm assuming. So it was a interesting time, to say the least, dealing with Paul Heyman on the contract, so to speak, and Taz, who was paranoid at times, and he'd been lied to so much that he didn't know what to believe,
Right,
or who to believe. And this deal sounds too good to be true. I don't even know if I deserve it, type thing. So I'm really glad that we got all that. We got that done. It wasn't easy, as we're talking about here. It wasn't easy, and it seemed like it was. We couldn't get him launched because of his injury and the rehab and all that stuff. I'm glad we found a spot for him at the broadcast table. And
I want to talk a little bit about the Paul Heyman piece for a minute, because I know that you and him have been friends for a long, long time. I mean, going way back to the Crockett days, you guys were boys, and
yeah.
you had a relationship. And of course, when you were running talent relations for WWE, I mean, ECW at times was almost like a developmental system. So, hey, we got this guy Brockus, we want to send him to you for a bit. Hey, we got Al Snow and we got Aldo Montoya. We'd like to send them down and see what you can do. And so you had lots of opportunities like that, and then you would bring some that direction too. Of course, we know Mick Foley came through, and we know Stone Cold came through, and other talent too, like Too Cold Scorpio, who became Flash Funk. So you have a good relationship with Heyman, but there's a lot of reports, even this one in The Torch. Wade wrote, some are questioning Taz's WWF fate since his main contact and biggest WWF supporter was Russo. Listen, I don't pretend to know the intricacies of wrestling behind the scenes or wrestling politics or any of that. I'm just learning and asking questions. But when you hear that Taz had reached out to Vince Russo, they have a conversation, they set up a meeting with Vince. It does feel like you get the end around here. And now you're left with, hey, what about our partner, Paul Heyman? This is a guy that I know, like, and trust and have to talk to on a pretty consistent basis about talent back and forth. And we're having this conversation. Does Paul Heyman know that? Do you feel a sense of obligation to pick up the phone and call Paul Heyman and say, hey, man, I don't know how this happened, but this didn't come through me, and I just want you to know exactly what happened as soon as
No, you're right. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, absolutely. He deserved the information. I wasn't breaking kayfabe or trying to queer the deal at all. But it was just a crazy situation, man. It was, Paul and I, people thought because of what they saw on the air that we just disdained each other, that we hated each other. And nothing could be farther from the truth to this very day. So, you remember when I did a show there in New York at the Gotham Theater or someplace? It sold out, and Paul was nice enough to make a guest appearance. Things like that mean something to guys like me. He didn't have to do it. He didn't get paid for it. He just wanted to help me out. And we ended up settling to join out, which I was very proud to say. It's nice to look on that. What do you call those things? It's got all the names on it, of the people appearing. You know what I'm talking about? The show information on the banner outside.
the marquee.
Marquee. Thank you so much. The marquee had Jim Ross tonight sold out.
I love that.
I can't tell you how proud I was to accomplish that. It was, I felt like one of those old time vaudevillian uh, on the road guys, just making those one little hops, little shots. But it was New York City, and it was a big deal to me to sell that building out. So, and Paul's help was invaluable. So we've always had a good relationship. We've not always gotten along philosophically. We've disagreed many times, but we've also helped each other. I helped him become a better announcer. You know, down in nobody at WCW really wanted to work with him. He was boisterous and loud, and quite frankly, he was smarter than a lot of the guys on the booking committee. So a lot of guys didn't want to work with him. They felt intimidated. They're sensitive to his position and how he presented himself. And I didn't have those issues because I knew him well. So I took him off the hands of the booking committee and made him an announcer. And he was my partner. So that's no small thing. And, you know, I was told it wasn't a small thing. I don't think it was. So it was the right thing to do. And it launched his announcing career, which launched everything else. So I have a feel for that, Conrad. I just thought this is going to be good for everybody involved. I got him away from the booking committee who didn't like him. He didn't like them. So, okay, we separate you guys. There's nobody, if he's going to manage somebody, it's going to go through the booking committee. And so that's going to take some time for them to gain the trust in him. But in the meantime, he can do TV with JR and learn that trade and that skill and move on. He was a natural at it. I told him one time on a car trip, I said, God damn, you're easy to hate. And he looked at me with astonishment. I said, I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying that's a compliment for a villain. You're easy to hate.
Of course, we're talking about Paul Heyman. We're not talking about Taz. And something you'll never hate is what we do on the show here. You talk about, you know, making a small thing. Well, we make small things bigger here. Thanks to our friends at Blue Chew. Think of it as like a hot tag for your wiener. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, man, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night, so plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew wants you to have the confidence to perform at your best. So discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is JR, and you'll receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
Absolutely. Big time sponsor from day one. They're loyal. Their product works. It's affordable. I mean, good Lord, $5 for the first month. And that's just for shipping. You get the product for nothing.
Come on now.
It's a hell of a deal, man. So check it out, folks. Check it out. Here's the thing you mentioned, Conrad, and closing thoughts about Blue Chew.
Yeah.
It gives you confidence.
It does.
It gives you confidence. And I'm 72 years old. I don't need to go to get in the sack with some lady and you know, not have the confidence to perform and to take care of business. With Blue Chew, you always are able physically to take care of business, and it helps you in that regard a lot. So I like that aspect of the psychological aspect of getting your mind right, because it'll get your mind right and everything else is you're affecting. So check it out. And right now is a great time. First month free. You pay $5 shipping and you're all in. You're done. That's what I wholeheartedly endorse this deal. It's just too good to be true. And if the product didn't work, and if I didn't use it, and Conrad uses it, a lot of our friends use it, it's not like it's a secret or a bad thing. It's healthy and it works.
Check it out. Use our promo code JR. You're going to love it. It's bluechew.com. Hey, so let's talk about Taz here. We know that he's officially going to sign with the company on September 22nd, just days after he dropped the title. When he was at Anarchy Rules on September 19th, he had not yet signed the deal. But here comes Jeff Jones during the ring introductions. He's got Mike Awesome in tow. And Taz says, let's make it a three-way, not just me and Masato, but let's have Mike Awesome jump in here. And Taz is eliminated fairly quickly, which means we've got a new champ and we don't know who yet. And the match will continue with Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome. And Taz, allegedly, according to the newsletters, is asking Paul to let him sit out the rest of his contract. Paul says, thanks, but no thanks. Going to have you put over at Rob Van Dam at the next pay-per-view. And Taz does it. There's a lame duck period here that's kind of interesting where he's signed his contract in September, but he's losing to Rob Van Dam at the November to Remember pay-per-view. The relationship with WWE and ECW was interesting to say the least, right?
Yeah, it was just wrestling.
Yeah.
It was wrestling. You had to find who you could depend on and who you could count on and trust. And we had the people. We had those people in place. And I had to attaboy Vince. He got hot on Taz. He got ready. He got to where he really wanted him. And so, but to do that, he just wanted to be fair and not look like a bully. The other thing is we wanted to cultivate Heyman because Taz wasn't the only guy we were going to hire that had contacted us, like the Dudleys. So, it was an interesting little journey because of all the complex personalities that were involved. And people at times are changing their mind and then they're reconsidering. And, I don't play those games very well. Just, hey, step away, make your own decision. Here's the offer. If you want to do it, let me know and we'll get it taken care of immediately. So, but that didn't, some of them came around. I know me hiring the Dudleys was a big deal, I thought. And they had a pretty good run. Pretty damn good run, Connie.
So much fun to go back and talk about this time, or in this era, we'll call it mid-September. You actually wrote this in your blog at the time that Taz was, quote unquote, not being brought here to be average.
Right.
Can you expand on that? I mean, I know I'm asking you to clarify something you wrote 25 years ago. But
well, it just simply meant that we're bringing him in to be a main event guy, to give him the opportunity to be a main eventer. And we were well on our way to establishing that until he got injured. So we'll really never know how over Taz would have gotten because of his injury and the rehab and all that shit. And it was heartbreaking for him because he saw his break. He saw that he was in the right place at the right time. Vince started to like him. The pop that Taz got in the Garden was memorable, to say the very least. And it was impressive. I think, who do you work with that night? Kurt Angle?
Yep, we're going to get there. I wanted to ask you about that, though, because I mentioned earlier that there's probably going to be some hurt feelings. I mean, the Torch even said some are questioning Taz's fate in the WWF since his main contact and biggest WWF supporter was Russo. I bring this up because I know that Chris Jericho was another one that, Russo felt really strongly about. Politically, do you think there was any heat on Taz because he didn't go through the traditional channels? He had a connection with Russo. It didn't come directly through talent relations or something like that.
I was going to approve any deal that was cut. So no, I didn't give a shit. That's just being egotistic. And I didn't mind sharing some of the responsibility. And Russo was going to write for him and create for him and draw the pictures. So what the hell? I thought that probably made sense. Because if Taz was going to trust the guy making the creative decisions, that was a huge relief off my shoulders. because we've hurdled that one obstacle, so to speak. It never goes away totally, but bottom line is, we just had to get there. We just had to get there. And he was a very unique guy. He still is a very unique guy. I'm not saying he trusts everybody. He doesn't. So what? So what? He comes to work on time. He's trying to get better at his skill. He's doing a good job, man.
Well, I'm not piling on Taz. I'm just bringing up the Russo thing because I do want to add, I think context is important. We know he starts having these conversations at the end of August. He has this conversation with Russo on August 31st. He meets with Taz, or he meets with both Vinces, Taz does, on September 1st. He signs the deal 3 weeks later to the day, September 22nd. And 10 days after that, Vince Russo quits the company. And 1 day after that, shows up for WCW. So he's not even started here yet. And the guy who was an advocate for him and his contact, he gone. Like, this is not the way anybody wants to start. Like, Taz's start has got to be one of the more interesting.
But he wasn't the only advocate of it, Conrad. You're positioning it maybe erroneously. I think so, or inadvertently. There's a lot of people that were around that liked his work and was curious as to how we could get him over.
Well, here's what I'm getting to, Jim. I know that you're handling the cash, or Vince was, or you said, hey, I'm going to approve no matter what. So cash isn't the question, but I'm friends with an old timer in wrestling. He's in every Hall of Fame there ever was. And he taught me a long time ago, Connie, in wrestling, it comes down to the 2 C's, cash and creative. Well, if we got cash handled, and the guy who's leading the charge to recruit you is one of the head writers in Vince Russo, but now before you get a chance to even start, he's gone. I think it's natural for Taz to be nervous about.
Absolutely. Very nervous. Very nervous. He needed to be reassured that, hey, look, this doesn't change a fucking thing.
Right.
Doesn't change anything. You just do your thing to the best of your ability, improve your game, shall we say. And he took that as a challenge. He's a former football player. And a big fan of football, as a matter of fact. We always have that to talk about. So I think he's a Buffalo Bills fan. So, but anyway, I get off the subject.
He's a Bills fan and a Mets fan for sure. So he's loving what he's seeing with those Mets right now.
He's loving life right now. I can tell you that, if that's the case. And I think you're right about that. Mets for sure, and the Bills.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Bills Mafia.
Oh, there you go.
That's true.
Hey, I wanted to talk about one other hurdle that we got to clear, and it's something that we haven't talked a lot about, but I'm sure you guys had to think about. Now that he's in the WWE, we want to use and leverage all that brand equity he built for himself for the last several years in ECW. But, TAZ is owned by Time Warner. So we got to throw an extra Z on there. What do you remember, if anything, about adding the Z to his name as a workaround for this trademark?
It was a bump in the road at best. Didn't make a shit. Adding another Z is not going to affect him whatsoever. I think I remember talking to him a couple of times about that. So the change was afoot. So if they're going to change my name by adding another Z, what else can I expect? And so he's just he was always, he had a lot of questions. Some people say, well, he's needy. No, he was just insecure. He'd been screwed around so goddamn much that who could he trust? We had to prove to him over time, that's a key part of this statement, over time, that we were going to shoot him straight and he's going to get every opportunity to get over and become the main event star that he has envisioned being forever.
Let's talk about some speculation that was in the Torch. It's written here, lots of rumors circulating that Taz will be given the win at Royal Rumble, but the winner this year will not get a WrestleMania title shot. Having the title shot stipulation narrowed the possible Rumble winners to just a name or two each year, eliminating a lot of the drama. Now, we know Taz didn't win the Royal Rumble. We're going to talk about what he did at the Rumble. But what do you think of that? I never really considered that, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, we all know now, hey, the winner is going to go on to WrestleMania. So there's always a limited speculation. We know it's not going to be any of these 30 guys, but it might be one of these 2 or 3, depending on which direction they go. Do you miss the way it used to be where, you know, if you don't have that stipulation, anyone could win it? Or do you think the match needs stakes? Where do you land on that?
Oh, I like the stakes.
Yeah.
I like the stakes. Fighting for something tangible, something that you can sink your teeth into, you know, that you can get behind your guy. And, you know, a lot of people, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, they narrow it down to maybe the final 4. So, you know, that's their best guess. So I think that's probably makes the most sense is how to explain it. But I think everybody should, every match should be for something. If nothing else, the winner's share of the pot, if you will. But every match should be for something. You know, nobody's trying to maintain their amateur status. They want to be paid. They got to be paid. So that's where we're on that deal. But I like fighting for something, and I don't think that Vince is ready to beat Taz in his debut, so to speak. I guess it was his debut.
I can't wait for us to talk about his debut. But before we do, I got to put you up on a little bit of game here. Did you know about Mando's whole body deodorant? We've been talking about it for a long time now. Jim's using this on his whole body. That's right. Jim's using this underneath his scrotum. He's rubbing it on near his asshole.
Stop.
You can put it all over your body. That's what's great about this. It'll control the odor for 72 hours. It's clinically proven to stop BO at the source. You see, this was created by a doctor who said that, you know, body odor has just been misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's American made. It's aluminum free. It's baking soda free. It's cruelty free. It's dye free. It's vegan. And Mando wants you to be stink free in 4 different cologne quality scents. Things like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, or go stealthy and go unscented. They've got the stick of deodorant like we've all known, and it lasts 72 hours. And again, whole body formula here. You can use it everywhere, but you know, I think everybody listening to this has been using it on their armpits. But what about the Deo cream tube? This is the real deal, man. And this is the way my wife introduced it. I saw her rub some on the tips of her fingers, and where she put it next, I said, hey, what is that? It's the whole body formula. How about that? 72-hour odor control. It's going to give you that confidence. Even after a long day at work, you're still ready for some post-game activities.
Conrad, bottom line, it keeps you from stinking for 3 days.
How do you beat that?
You can't.
Try the body wash too. How about the cleansing bar? Even the deodorant wipes. It's like taking a shower without actually taking a shower. Tony Schiavone loves this. You will too. I've loved it. My wife loves it. Even Dave Silva uses it on his nasty ass belly button, his stinky butt cracks, his filthy crevices, his stomach folds, his disgusting feet. It's done so much. It's done so much for Dave Silva. He can now sleep in the house with the rest of his family. They used to just have to hose him off out back, and he was sleeping with the dog in the doghouse, and his back's better, and his sleep apnea is under control now. It's all because of Mando. Get this starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice. I recommend the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes and free shipping. And we've got a discount code to help you get hooked up on our favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off this starter pack with our exclusive code. That's like 40% off your starter pack when you use the code JR at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Just use that code JR and you'll be stink free Jones, as Taz might say.
Absolutely. In commemoration of Taz today, you know, he had successful surgery, by the way.
Yes, he did.
He got his knee replaced.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it was successful. Everything's good. I talked to Hook in Tacoma.
Okay.
And asking about his dad. I got to call Taz. I promised I would, because just see how he's doing. He's not the most soft-hearted guy.
No, he's not going to put anything over. He's not going to sell anything.
No, and he probably don't give a shit about. He probably cares more about the bills than he does himself.
Check your phone, Jim. You got your phone nearby?
Yeah, I do.
Pick that phone up. I just sent you a picture. Take a look at that.
Uh-oh.
We can't post that, of course, but that's Taz's knee. In real life, Taz and I Taz is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Man, that's a serious wound right there, is it not?
It's a serious piece of business.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. It looks gruesome.
I can't feel fun, man.
Wow.
And if I have I don't know what to expect, but I know that Hook is trying to figure out, who put the straw that broke the camel's back to Taz's knee.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if and when the time is right, we're going to learn more about that attack. And
yeah, it's a good story.
I'm ready to see what Hook is going to do to take care of dear old dad here. How cool is that, man?
He's ready to move up a class. The kid, I think. His game has improved. He's a great kid. He's professional beyond his years, and I'm really proud that he's on the AEW roster. I look forward to the day that I can call some more of his matches. He's a talented little bastard, and he's growing. He's putting on, he works out like a Trojan, and not a USC Trojan, but a real Trojan from back in the old days, back in the Arnold Skolin days, a Trojan. And I'm not talking about condoms. For years, I didn't know there was another brand of condoms other than Trojan. What a pain in the ass that was. I'm glad I got married to Jan. God almighty. Those days the condom days are a pain in the ass. And by the way, there's no excuse to stink. You should know that. And women have a great sense of smell, delicate sense of smell. Don't run them off because your ass stinks. You can solve all those issues with Mando. And
use the promo code, man. Come on, shopmando.com. Yeah. Type it in, JR. You're going to get hooked up, and your balls aren't going to stink anymore.
No, stinky balls don't get you nowhere.
No, they don't.
Let's put a T-shirt out. Stinky balls don't get you anywhere.
But I digress. Let's talk about the Royal Rumble. It's the big debut. We've all been waiting on this. It's one of the more famous debuts. I mean, of all the ways you could debut a guy in Madison Square Garden, where this crowd is an ECW faithful crowd. They know who Taz is. He's been one of their biggest players. You've got 19,231 fans in the building, paying over $1 million gate. This is way back when, in 2000. And here he comes, the 6th largest gate for a pro wrestling event ever in the United States, in the country's most famous wrestling arena. It broke the WrestleMania 10 gate. They sold $157,000 in merch. And Kurt Angle is standing in the ring, undefeated in WWE. An Olympic gold medalist who's never lost in the WWE gets choked out in 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Taz 316 says, I just ended the Olympians' gold medal streak. What a hell of a debut and a hell of a way to debut a guy, Taz, here at Royal Rumble 2000.
Yeah, it was shocking for a lot of people that, first of all, that Kurt lost, and how the match was not long, under 5 minutes. But boy, the fans there got everything that they could get out of those dudes. So I was just really impressed with that whole performance. And then some of the guys, in the back, they saw what a pop, number one. And number two, he's dangerous.
Let's talk about that. I'm glad you said that, because this was even written in the Torch at the time. I'm sorry, the Observer. Angle took a great backdrop over the top rope and one time landed almost on his head from a suplex. After the suplex on his head, Taz delivered a head and arm suplex and a T-bone suplex before putting on the choke, and the referee stopped the match. The gimmick they're doing is, whether it's a choke or a sleeper, Angle is in his post-match interview saying he didn't know what happened and he still thought he was undefeated. It got 2 stars. And according to the Torch, Shane McMahon was advocating that Taz and Kurt Angle go about 12 minutes. According to Wade, Taz would argue that my debut match should be stronger. It should be shorter. It winds up being 3 minutes and 16 seconds. But
He was right.
Yes.
He was right, Conrad. You know, the shorter, compact, high impact, bam, bam, bam was just, I thought it was spot on.
Jason Powell pointed out when you watch the pay-per-view back, he felt like when the crowd is chanting ECW as Taz is making his way to the ring, that it sounds like you can hear the crowd get quieter. Maybe they didn't want that chant coming through. But you just said it a minute ago. People were saying he was dangerous. As the story goes, there were people who weren't maybe on board with Taz in WWE. Maybe they weren't overwhelmed with his work in ECW or his height. I mean, let's just call it like it is. Whatever criticism you could have of Taz, someone allegedly took issue with some of these suplexes in the Kurt Angle match. Did Kurt Angle have an issue as best you can recall?
No, not that I recall whatsoever. You know, Kurt's so damn tough. And, you know, like I said, he legit won a gold medal in the Olympics. He was just he was a stud. He still is a stud. And I'm glad that we were able to sign him in the beginning. I remember him coming in and he had just tried out for a sportscaster job in Pittsburgh. I think until he found out that it's more challenging to read a teleprompter than one would assume. And, you know, there's no money in it at that level. So he was happy to take our offer, and it was a good offer. We didn't lowball him. We didn't want him to come in regretting that. You know, that's the one thing. You got to find a happy medium somewhere. You got to compromise. And that's what we did with a lot of talents. You don't want them to start day one regretting their decision, but you can't make everybody happy. There's not a foolproof number that you can just throw out there. It's got to be based on the talent, based on what they have the ability to do, based on Vince's plans for them, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm always a big fan of Kurt's, but he never complained at all that I can remember. He may have said something to some of the boys. I don't know, because I'm sure they questioned him. You know, how did it feel? Was it safe? Do you feel like you're going to get hurt? Whatever. So he didn't say shit. That's just Kurt. And he helped get another guy over. And I was speculate to you, Conrad, and our audience, is that by the time that show ended, Taz had made an indelible impression.
Well, there's no doubt of that. I mean, Taz got a superstar reaction. It's one of the better debuts. As the story goes, he shows up to Monday Night Raw the next day, and he's sequestered to the principal's office for a conversation about some of those suplexes that he hit Kurt Angle with. Allegedly, the one where he dumped him on his head. That even you said. Well, Kurt didn't say shit. The insinuation, let me just say the quiet part out loud. We fans, and I'm not saying anyone's ever told me this, but we fans have always been led to believe the person who was adamant that was unsafe and he dropped him on his head and, oh my God, look at this guy, that was Triple H. Can you confirm or deny that Triple H is the person who had an issue with Taz?
Well, that's been the rumor for years. I don't know if it's based in fact or speculation or what have you. Triple H was very astute in his evaluating things, as we see today in WWE. He's done a phenomenal job. But he never come to me specifically and said, you got to get rid of Taz, or why did you hire Taz? Did you hear that, Pop? For a guy that hadn't been on our TV? So, you know, I don't know. I had no issue. I don't think I had any issues with Triple H. But, you know, he could have expressed himself. He did on occasion. He paid attention. He understood things, which we're seeing today proven out.
I can't wait for us to pick up our conversation and talk about what happened for Taz with his in-ring career, the transition to being on the headsets, and so much more. We'll do that in the future here on Grilling JR. But in the meantime, did you know in my real life I'm helping people save money at savewithconrad.com?
I heard that.
Yeah, I'm doing it every day, Jim, and I'm making it fast. I'm making it easy. Go check out my reviews right now for yourself at conradreviews.com. You'll see I've got more than 1,200 reviews, and our average star rating is 4.72 stars. Well, if your favorite wrestler had an average critical review of 4.72 stars, we'd say he's the greatest of all time. Well, I'm not saying that, but I am saying our customer service is going to make you feel the greatest of all time. How's this for starters? No house payments until next year. That's right. You don't have to make your November or your December house payment. And come next year, you're going to be saving a boatload of cash. If you can hear my voice and you've got credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. I'm routinely having conversations with people who tell me they're carrying more credit card debt than ever before. You can look that up. America's in more credit card debt than at any point in history. And if that's your circumstance and you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments, I want to remind you the asset, the relief you've been looking for, it's been in your house the entire time. Now, it's not in the junk drawer in your kitchen. That's not where you'll find the solution. It's the equity in your home. You might have a great rate on your current mortgage, but what's your rate on those credit card bills you racked up? 28%, 31%? Some people might even say that's higher than Giraffe something or other. You know you can do better than that. Why wouldn't you get rid of all that credit card debt? Pay it off right now for good. Not only can you get a better interest rate, you can also get a greater tax deduction. Food for thought. The interest you pay on your mortgage is tax deductible, but the interest you pay on a credit card is not. So if you could get a better rate, you could get a greater tax deduction. You could skip your next 2 house payments. So you didn't have to put Christmas on a credit card. You could just use your house payment money instead. And then come January, you got a cheaper monthly payment. Buddy, that's called win, 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 win. Let's do it for you right now at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. What you need is a plan. And I want to be your mortgage advisor for life. Even if you filed bankruptcy yesterday, you need a plan on how we're going to rebuild credit. How am I going to buy a house next year or the year after that? Step 1 is go right now to savewithconrad.com. There's no application fee. There's no credit report fee. If we can't save you cash, we won't waste your time. But if you've got credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can help you save money. It's a matter of how much. I'm routinely helping our podcast listeners save $600, $700, $800, even $900 a month. On Monday, we helped a family save more than $1,100 per month. What would you do with an extra 1,100 bones a month? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. And man, I got to tell you, Jim, there's nothing better than feeling like, hey, I'm at home. I got the house like I like it. And now I'm going to go fire up the grill and throw on some of JR's famous seasoning at jrsbbq.com. The all-purpose seasoning was on the chicken that I ate tonight for supper. It's going to be on the pork chop I'm going to eat tomorrow for supper. It is a staple in the Thompson household. It's good on all protein. My wife has done it on eggs. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. You can also pick up Chipotle ketchup, Main Event mustard, 2 types of barbecue sauce, even a hot sauce. And now he's got books, cards, action figures, and more. It's all at jrsbbq.com. And as Jim always says, it costs nothing to look, right, Jim?
Not a damn thing. You know, I discovered, because I've been having a hard time finding a steak sauce that I really like. It doesn't seem like the development of steak sauce is it seems to be lagging in the food world. And I haven't, I'm sure somebody used to send me some Peter Luger's. You had to keep it refrigerated, but it's very good, but it's very expensive. I found out that you could take our Chipotle ketchup and put it in a little ramekin type thing, little bowl, coffee cup, whatever, and warm it up in the microwave, and it makes one hell of a steak sauce. So it's just something to think about. If you're going to be eating proteins, whether it's the pork chops that Conrad's going to consume tomorrow night, or steaks, or what have you, try that sometime. Get some Chipotle ketchup and get your little bowl, put it in the microwave for 30 seconds or so, and you'd be shocked at how good a steak sauce you just discovered.
Something for everybody. Hit it up right now, jrsbbq.com. Aaron Sheen, who was with us here live as a part of our live studio audience, he says, "Hey, JR, I ordered your barbecue sauce. I can't wait to try it." Well, you're going to love it, Aaron. I've never heard anybody say they didn't love the sauces and seasoning available at jrsbbq.com. But in the meantime, make plans to join us. I can't believe it. JR is an executive producer. He's going to the Newport Beach Film Festival, and it's happening this weekend. We've got the link in the description. It's this Saturday at 5:30 Pacific. It's only $20, and you get to be a part of real wrestling history. They're going to be doing a Q&A with some of the folks who made the film and some of the cast. And by God, Jim Ross is going to be there. You got to make plans to be there. We'll have the link in the description. Jim, you got a big weekend planned, man. How are you going to do all this and college football? It's going to be a big day for you.
I'm afraid I'm going to miss the OU South Carolina game. I was going to go, but this became premiere came up, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Yes.
So I'm trading off the OU game. I'll go to others, and I'll go to one this fall sometime, one or two. So, and they're not having the greatest year, as we know, and I don't need to be reminded. I'm aware of it, but nonetheless, it is what it is. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I went to the premiere in New York City, Jan and I did, of Man in the Moon.
Yes.
The whole cast was there, and Jerry Seinfeld was there, and all these, Larry David, and I got to meet all those guys, and they were curious of what because I was actually in that film. Wasn't a long part, a big part, but it was significant. I played a wrestling announcer when Lawler and Kaufman had their first big row in a ring. Lawler let Kaufman put him in a headlock and suplexed him. That took a lot of balls for Andy to do that, but he was fearless and he wanted to try everything. So I'm excited about seeing how our movie has all played out. I hope you guys will take a chance. If you can't join us on Saturday, the movie's going to be in theaters. And I hope that some of you or all of you check it out and let us know what you think. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun weekend, no doubt.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for us to talk about the movie. I'm going to be a day one visitor. I've got my favorite theater here in town, and the day that one is airing at my theater, I'll be at the very first showing. What an incredible cast you guys put together. What a great story. The story of Mildred Burke, the first $1 million female athlete anywhere in the world. And by God, your old friend of mine, Jim Ross, is the executive producer. Get out and support him. Go see Queen of the Ring. I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. Jim, I had a blast talking about TAZ coming to WWE, and I can't wait to pick up where we left off and talk about what's next for TAZ.
Me too. He's a good guy. He's sullen sometimes. He's moody sometimes, but ain't we all? Yes. So, and I'm just happy that he got his surgery and that it's healing well, and we'll see him again very soon. He's tough for a $2 steak. There's no doubt about it.
And next week, we're doing a big episode. How big? It's No Mercy, 1999. So as you're listening to this today would have been the 25-year anniversary of No Mercy 99. Go out of your way to go see it, watch it, get ready. And JR and I are going to break it down, the good, the bad, and the ugly next week right here on Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Now head to that grill, ladies and gentlemen, and get it on.